Hey, what's up? This is Matt from WorkHustleFreedom.com, and today we're going to take a peek at a question that we get asked quite a bit from you guys, and it's a good question. It's LLC versus S-Corp. Which one is right for your online business? So the first thing to point out is that both are technically LLCs. It's basically a tax election that's the difference. So you're taxed as a sole proprietorship if you deem yourself an LLC, whereas you're taxed as an S-Corp if you elect to be taxed as an S-Corp. Just something to keep in mind. I want to look at the two differences between those. There are some advantages that both offer versus not doing them. Both an LLC and an S-Corp offer legal protections by protecting your personal assets from creditors, meaning that you're only liable for what you put into the business. So if, God forbid, your business goes under, you're not liable for all the debt, all the liabilities that the company has. Hence why it's called an LLC, a limited liability company. So that's something to point out. Also, you get to avoid paying both personal and corporate tax because you have a separate entity, where you wouldn't, or because you wouldn't have it if you had a C corp. You would have to pay tax at both levels, and then this is huge. Both can deduct pre-tax expenses such as travels, computers, advertising. I know that online marketers love to hear that, etc. So basically, you're only going to be paying tax on net profit because you get to deduct all the expenses and all the other things that you put into your business. So huge advantage. Now let's just look a little bit at them uniquely, one by one. The benefits and disadvantages of an LLC. So the pros are a single member LLC doesn't have to file a tax return, which cuts out a little bit of red tape there. You don't have to have your accountant do it. It basically flows to your personal return. There is a schedule that basically lays out your profit loss, but other than that, there's not a lot to do with that. It's very easy to set up. In fact, you can usually just go to your local Secretary of State or the Secretary of State of the state that you want to form your business in, and it's like a couple page form and a fee, and then you're good to go. It's very inexpensive to start. The fee is not that much, which makes it very beneficial, and there's less red tape involved than setting up an S-Corp. An S-Corp has more requirements than an LLC does. Cons are the self-employment tax. So you have to make your quarterly payments to Uncle Sam. Basically means that you will have to pay, it's right around 15.9% self-employment tax, which can, as you make more, can result in quite a bit of tax burden. And then one other thing to keep in mind as a con is don't pierce the corporate veil, meaning that you should strive and do everything you can to keep your personal affairs separate from the affairs of the LLC, meaning that you shouldn't be paying personal bills out of the company's accounts, because if that happens in cases where maybe the company goes under, the courts can actually pierce the corporate veil, as it's called, meaning that you lose that protection, and at that point they can go after your personal assets. Basically, what they're saying is you functioned, it didn't function as a business. It functioned, to basically pay your personal expenses, and that's something you want to make sure that you don't do. Like I said, it can result in loss of your personal protection. So benefits and advantages of an S-Corp. The S-Corp has tax benefits for excess profits, which are called distributions in an S-Corp. We'll take a look at that shortly. It basically allows you to pay yourself a reasonable salary and deduct payroll expenses, federal taxes, FICA. So that's like the companies. If you work for like a different company, that's the portion that they would have to pay, not just what comes out of your check. You get to deduct that as an expense. Remember, a reasonable salary is defined as what's typical, what's a market rate for someone with your qualifications. So you can't set it incredibly low. You have to be, as it says, reasonable. And then any excess profits above that are distributed as dividends, which are taxed at a lower rate, and you don't have to pay self-employment tax on distributions. A con: Like I said before on the LLC piece, there's more guidelines for an LLC. For example, here are a few of them. You must be a U.S. citizen or resident. You cannot have more than 100 shareholders. There's only one class of stock. Profits and losses must be distributed according to each shareholder's interest. A lot of those don't have a lot of bearing on the businesses that you guys are probably setting up, since you are probably a single member, but just something to keep in mind. It's more expensive to set up. There's a passive income limitation, and there can be additional state tax. Shareholders must adhere to requirements at all times, otherwise you risk being treated as a C Corp. So you have to make sure that you follow those guidelines. And like I said, if you go the S Corp road, make sure that you pay attention to those types of requirements. So let's look at a little example here, just say like we have a typical LLC. So you're only paying tax on your net profit, which net profit is calculated as your gross profit less your expenses and deductions. So we're going to be paying 15.3% self-employment tax on that, which basically consists of 12.4% in Social Security and 2.9% in Medicare. Now remember, this applies to all income that you make up to $128,400 for 2018. Now that's just your self-employment tax. You also have to consider your state and federal income tax, which is additional payments you'll have to make. So let's take your typical LLC. If we have $100,000 in net profit, and then we basically have to apply the 15.3% self-employment tax. That's what we have to pay on our $100,000 net profit, which means that we're basically paying $15,300 in self-employment tax. Ouch, right? So that's not the whole tax burden. You also have to pay your federal income tax. So let's say net you have $8,500 of taxable income. Well, at the 24% single rate, you basically have to pay $20,400 in federal tax as well. So for your LLC, you have $15,300 of self-employment tax. You have $20,400 of federal tax, which basically means that your total tax bill is $39,000. So let's take a peek at the S-Corp and what that ends up being for total tax. So assuming the same $100,000 net profit, you can pay yourself, let's say, a reasonable salary of $60,000, which means you're going to have to pay the 15.3% self-employment tax on that $60,000 salary, which means you'll be paying about $9,180. Now, the remaining $40,000 of that $100,000 will be paid to yourself as a distribution. There is no 15.3% self-employment tax on that, which means your total self-employment tax is $9,180. So, if you look at the LLC compared to S-Corp, you would have paid $15,300 in self-employment tax on the LLC. You pay $9,180 as a self-employment tax for the S-Corp, which yields $6,120 in savings, which equates to $510 a month. So there are some other things. Like I said, there's more red tape with an S-Corp, so you want to bear in mind there probably is some more accounting expenses. But as you make more money, as you get above, say, $100,000 profit, $150,000 profit, an S-Corp probably does make sense. So you probably will want to take a look at it. So where do you go to set up a company? Well, the most popular one is Delaware. Delaware is very low cost to form. There's more than half a million businesses have their home in Delaware, including 50% of all publicly traded companies. Nevada lacks business tax, so they're also very popular. They're very pro-business as well. They don't have franchise fees, capital gains tax, so they're really an up-and-comer in terms of where people want to form their businesses. A sleeper that's also really popular is Wyoming. And a little side note, Wyoming was the first state in the country to ever offer an LLC. They have similar tax benefits to Nevada, and they also allow for a lifetime proxy, which makes them really a good place to start an LLC. So these are kind of the three that you want to take a look at. I would say that unless you're making a lot of money, an LLC probably makes more sense taxed as a single member LLC. Otherwise, if you're making quite a bit of change, S-Corps are probably the way to go. But they're very easy to set up, and we're going to take a peek at that now. Hey, it's Matt. So let's see how easy it is to set up a business. All you have to do is go over to the big G and type in, you can do Nevada, let's just do like Wyoming, Secretary of State. They have a business entity search in here, so you can actually figure out if your name's taken, but as long as your name's not in use, all you have to do is go over to, if you want to start a business in Wyoming, the links are below. You can say file your Wyoming LLC, and you basically do it here. You can get started just by following the steps here. Let's see, the fee for it is $100, so it's very reasonable. And then yeah, like I said, it's very simple. Just ask you a few basic questions. You're gonna have to put your contact information in. So that's one option. And if we go back, we can do let's say Nevada Secretary of State. Again, you can search your business entity to make sure that it's available. And then you can also go into online services. And so here's your business search, and then your initial business license filings. And all you need to do is choose whatever option applies to you. In this case, you will start a for-profit business. You want to start an LLC, just pretend. No, you don't have any exemptions. Next. And then you basically go through and fill this out. And it's very self-explanatory. If you have any questions, there's question boxes that kind of help you along the way. But that's basically it. So yeah, please stay tuned for more business. So yeah, that's basically it. So if you haven't yet, we'd love to have you subscribe for more business insights. We're going to be having a lot more content coming your way. And just wanted to thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them our way. You can either message us or comment below. Hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.